La Pasritas, hello and good morning. To all of you, and thanks to the Transportation Association for having us here, giving us the chance to echo a little bit what Google Cloud thinks on transportation innovation. I would like to begin with a quote from Larry Page, one of our founders, who said, "If you're changing the world, you're working on important things, so you're excited to wake up in the morning." I see a lot of people here, so I think and I hope that you're excited as I am. Very good. Thank you very much for your attention. At Google, there's a saying that goes, "Focus on the user and all else will follow." Where there are many factors that influence a business decision, it is this relentless pursuit to prioritize the values and benefits and users that enable a successful product or service model. We believe the same approach needs to be applied to transportation, innovation, and initiatives. Transportation is a physical activity, but like many other things in the world, is increasingly powered by software. New bridges are created that connect the physical with the digital world. We refer to those bridges as capabilities. Those capabilities enable software to improve real-world user outcomes, while others will allow software to learn about the real world. Transportation capabilities being developed by a host of different organizations will have a material impact on society over the next few decades. Our mission is to improve exactly the people's living by making the city transportation better and more sustainable. We believe the best way to do so is creating loops of feedback that continually learn about the world and using that knowledge to exactly improve the outcomes. We encapsulate this strategy in every trip makes the next trip better. We've established the benchmark for routing individuals and are one of the largest transit apps globally. More than 160 million of people are using Google Maps on a daily basis and 1 billion on a monthly basis. But our users are no longer just consumers. It's getting more and more complex. They now include operators, cities, and auto OEMs. We ship multiple cars with built-in Google Maps navigation and made a lot of deals with top riding-sharing companies. Apart from Google Maps, there's also Google Waze, which is one of the community-based approach of transportation as well, which also has a huge market penetration and will be always parallel to Google Maps. We often get asked, how can you create such a long-term value or a durable value with your product, with your service? Building for the long term requires capabilities that deliver enduring benefit to the end user and also the organizations using it. We could be wrong, but believe that users will always value impact along the following dimensions. Time. Also, being equal trips should be fast as possible. We aim to optimize individual trips as well as improving access to the city by reducing travel times as far as possible. We also now have the ability to choose the sustainable, time-neutral way from A to B. Second, cost. Everyone from individuals to operators cares about the cost. For many individuals, especially the developing markets, it is the deciding factor. Third, safety. Road injury is still under the 10 causes of death, and Vision Zero is being adopted by more and more cities around the globe. There are places and people that prioritize safety above everything else in travel decisions. And lastly, sustainability. Transportation represents 27% of the global CO2. Reducing that number would really help the globe to breathe better, and the paramount importance to cities and growing urgency for consumers, but I will touch base much wider on sustainability later on. These values represent our outcomes that we believe matter the most to how users can create value over the long term. It isn't exhaustive and doesn't mean we know how to do all those things always correctly. Different users will have different functions to maximize utility. Individuals can't aggregate some small fragments of value, but operators can. So priorities may vary, but the values themselves will be stable always over the time. So priorities may vary. This is really important to you. But focusing our efforts on improving these outcomes is the right long-term investment. Then we get asked, what are the key dynamics right now in the field which make more and more relentless stories about transportation innovation? While those values are predicted to be durable, we foresee a few critical dynamics, change beyond the control of any single player that will shape the landscape of transportation. Increased software routing. Today, a mere fraction of trips are really done routed by software. Nearly 5 to 10% of US city-based routings are only software-based. Vehicles will become connected, and the growth of on-demand rideshare and delivery, they will lead to all increase in software routing. In time, autonomous vehicles will enter the picture, creating a broader demand in terms of precise routing. At some point, every vehicle on the road will be software routed. Then it's city-managed mobility. As the number of mobility options increase, we're seeing actually the cities invest more in actively managing these options. They have their own mobility goals, usually around safety, equity, and sustainability. They are prioritizing instead of allowing private companies to dictate events, as happened in the early days of rideshare and bike shares that you saw all over the place. This is coming in the form of regulations like mandating use of MDS and sharing routes in Singapore, for example, or unifying the front end and payment options like Pittsburgh and Berlin have done. Exactly, this will conclude in less clear, but we do expect that cities will have the last word. Software-defined vehicles. Today's vehicles are largely defined by their hardware, the motor block, and so on, but innovation is happening more in software, so that doesn't just really compete together. The next leap in vehicle safety will come from ADAS, autonomy, not crumble zones or airbags. Transitioning to electronic vehicles will make things easier. 30,000 parts are usually used for a motor block in a standard car, and only 10,000 are used for a battery electronic vehicle, which is quite simple. This fact could allow for new manufacturers and new players to enter the market because of less complexity. Dynamic infrastructure management. The population of cities will grow faster than new infrastructure can be built, an issue of both cost and real estate. With limited ability to increase capacity, cities will look to active management of fixed cost infrastructure to maximize utilization. New cost-effective sensors will be bringing infrastructure online, enabling active management like curb usage, signal timing, reversible lanes, and many more. Transit data and the state of infrastructure will tend towards openness and standardization. This completely adds up to a world where 100% of transportation will be connected and powered by software. All new modes will start this way, and existing modes will either be brought online or will be replaced. The same trend will apply to infrastructure. Connected vehicles and infrastructure provide an opportunity for optimization. But let's make 2 steps back. Don't look into the future, but into the very present. Consumers rely on deliveries more than ever, even since COVID-19. And they expect that deliveries to be fast, reliable, and on low cost. In fact, e-commerce shipments are on track to double by 2026, and 90% of consumers expect free 2 to 3 day daily deliveries. This means last-mile fleet operators have to work harder to create better consumer experiences, improve their operations, and find more sustainable ways to deliver parcels. I have also seen the Post in the Baltics is already partially autonomous, also the vehicle over there, which is a great and promising first step. We are trying to address this problem by providing the parcel companies with our last-mile fleet solution, which brings fleet management on one side in real time, including shipment status and route progress, helping them to keep fleet performance at its peak. Last-mile delivery can make up over half of their total shipping costs, which means the pressure to efficiently manage their complete fleet has never been higher. In addition, Cloud Fleet Routing API from Google Cloud provides advanced fleet-wide routing capabilities. It combines the scale of our Google Cloud platform with dynamic routing data from Google Maps, so fleet operations will have consistent routing data from planning to execution. This will lead to less traffic congestion, route-optimized deliveries, and less carbon footprint. But there are also alternative shipping modes, and maybe one of the most tricky legislation hurdles for future governments, especially the airspace. Our Project Wing is an autonomous delivery drone service aiming to increase the reach and access to goods, reduce traffic congestions in cities, and help ease the CO2 emissions attributable to the transportation of goods. So the airspace is one of the potentials to find more sustainable solutions to the last mile problem. At the same time, drones would also be perfect for rural areas, where the parcel delivery just has 1 or 2 parcels per village. So now we can again look into the bright future from 2 steps back, let's go 2 steps in front, where software orchestrates routes, vehicles, and infrastructure to improve transportation for everyone, optimized for durable value. This transformation is unlocking a new set of problems, solutions, but also a lot of opportunities. The winners in this new world of transportation will be defined by their capabilities, as I mentioned before, how much they can learn about the real world, gain new insights out of data, and you will hear data a lot today, and how they're able to use the software to improve these outcomes. Now hold on and think about the opportunities and the challenges this brings with it. The Baltic region has become a front runner, especially when it comes to startups, and is very well positioned as we have shown the way for digitalization to whole of Europe. And remember, the future will be software and data driven. And the more startups you can attract, the more advantage and momentum you will gain in transportation and many others. If the prediction becomes reality and the Baltics really grow up to 9,000 startups by 2030, that is the perfect fertilizer for innovation, not only in transportation. Digital maturity and the ability to transform here in the Baltics is phenomenally high. This is also thanks to the fact that your governments had high ambitions for digitizing service to citizens and businesses, which automatically leverage the level of digital competencies in society. So legislation plays a key role in lowering barriers for innovation and thus begin able to develop innovation strategies. If the future investments in infrastructure enable the just mentioned key dynamics, the Baltic region could become an incubator of transportation innovation and the first region to implement ITS on a federal level rather than on a city-based level, as we can see it in many other European cities or countries. My advice is pretty clear. Strengthen the relationship to the builders of future trends and get the prerequisites ready in time. We are also trying to do our best with our program Grow with Google by offering free of charge training courses and tools to help people to get the right skills for the job, careers, or start businesses. Now, as I promised before, I would like to deepen the very important topic of sustainability. At Google, we believe in building a more sustainable future for everyone to enable well-being, environmental, and economic benefits. Our sustainability efforts are focused on 3 key areas. Decarbonizing our energy consumption to operate on carbon-free energy anywhere and everywhere 24/7. By today, since 2007, we already are CO2 neutral, and we really think that by 2030 we will be completely CO2 free, that we can certify each and every kilowatt hour produced to enable our Alphabet company will be 100% CO2 free and certified. Second, maximize reuse of finite resources across our operations, products, and supply chains, and enable others to do the same. Third, replenish 120% of the water we consume by 2030 as well, and actively support water and ecosystems where we operate. Now let's talk about mobility. Mobility can be broken down into 3 broad categories. First, the passenger mobility, movement of people. Second, the parcel delivery and logistics for the movement of goods. And third, the infrastructure that supports the operations of these mobility options. When implementing smart mobility and transportation solutions across these categories, it is critical to consider the three elements I mentioned in my beginning: eco-friendly infrastructure, economic viability, and the well-being. Mobility is at the core of today's climate change discussions. In major cities where high volumes of people and goods are being transported on a daily basis, local governments and service providers should consider smart mobility solutions to counterbalance their significant carbon emission impact. In fact, as I mentioned before, today the transportation sector is still responsible for 27% of the CO2 emissions in the world and is the fastest growing source of greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuel, which in turn is the largest contributor to climate change. Therefore, when we attempt to solve the mobility challenges in cities, we are simultaneously addressing the broader environmental sustainability issue. With the progress of modern technology across the fields of new energy vehicles, autonomous technology, ride-sharing services, mobility has become one of the most promising fields for improvements. However, despite all these recent technology advancements to help improve sustainability, accessibility to the newer modes of transportation is still limited in many markets. While conventional means of transport and travel with a high carbon footprint, including gasoline engine-based cars, trucks, and two-wheelers, remain the norm and continue to generate significant carbon emissions. In 2018, we launched a tool called Environmental Insights Explorer. It is an online tool that provides more than 40,000 cities globally to help policymakers measure, analyze, and identify strategies to reduce the just mentioned CO2 emissions. I was often asked by cities, how can we access data of Google Maps? This is the answer. The tool covers key data points including building, transportation emissions, solar rooftop potential, and tree canopy coverage. In this showcase, we see the transportation data Google Maps has aggregated for the host city of Vilnius. The goal of these efforts is to enable the cities to take informed action with high-quality data and collectively reduce 1 gigaton of carbon emissions by 2030, which equates to the volume of CO2 of 120 million households. Since each individual has their own distinct circumstance to consider when deciding how to move from point A to point B, such as time, economic, and physical constraints, there is no one-size-fits-it-all approach to solving mobility issues, but visibility could help to find the right or the best approach. For countries where people rely on conventional means of transportation, we need to think of ways to help optimize and reduce the travel distance and time to lower overall emissions. A very local lighthouse project. Right now, you can see real-time transit data of buses and trolley buses in Google Maps from Vilnius, Kaunas, and Klaipėda, which are the starting cities, and still more to come. Expanding the visibility to long-distance buses, trains, and sea ferry routes will also enable and leverage this idea. The aim is for people to choose the most convenient and fastest way to travel, giving up cars with all possible information about public transportation in the city in one place in maybe the most used app. This is a brilliant example to reduce usage of private cars and be more sustainable. For more advanced markets with more transportation models such as underway, underground, subway, metros that are experimenting with new mobility solutions, we need to help optimize their operations and enable sustainable business growth and market penetration. For people with disabilities, senior citizens who have different mobility needs, we need to think about solutions for improved accessibility. Taking into account the mobility needs to all citizens echoes our human-centric approach in designing smart cities. As mentioned before, modern technology provides substantial opportunities for smart city and transportation use cases. However, technology-led approaches without the interest of the people that live in the city or visit the city or rely to the city in mind and are fundamentally flawed, and it will eventually lead to the demise of any initiative. It is also critical to understand the needs of different communities within the city, not just the most vocal or affluent groups. This is what we will refer to as a human-centric approach, which positions the service users' needs at the core of every project while engaging all stakeholders in the development process. Here you can see some of the key building blocks which are fundamental to this human-centric approach. First of all, you have to know who are you dealing with. By gaining a deep understanding of the makeup of your population is the starting point for any planning. Communication and information exchange is a key factor as well in order to validate and refine the core challenges and opportunities of your city. Without an easy and inconvenient way to access, analyze, and understand these data points, most service users will lose interest in such activities. At the core of the human-centric approach, it is neat to design a user experience that is intuitive for all service users. Data interoperability across domains is the typical break down the silo approach. Make sure that the most relevant data set is not hidden in a hard drive where no data analysis can be put on it. Then you need data transparency and also privacy governance by sharing data points that are relevant to your community. Whatever these are data points on city KPIs, demographics, environment, mobility, energy use, or even crimes, this information is meant to help guide the discussions and decisions within the community and monitor progress over time. The last step is where our approach from Google comes again into consideration and into the game. As I mentioned before, every trip makes the next trip better. So iteration and enhancement is key in order to create a solution that continues to grow and adapt in the coming years and decades. I hope that this content will bring new perspectives to all stakeholders all over the place and inspire them to develop sustainable smart cities and innovation in transportation that provide ideas how they will play a role in future smart countries, cities, regions all over the planet, as the turnaround of mobility is an issue that we all must address. Thank you very much for your attention, and together let's make the world better. Thank you very much.